Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome back to the committee. It was 8 months ago when we were here talking, and the questions I had to you specifically had to do with Russia, weaponry, and so my concern is not will they or won't they, but can they or can't they in terms of capacity and capabilities. So kind of following up, the question I started then, I'm going to start with again today. In March of 2018, President Putin announced Russia was developing several new nuclear delivery vehicles that could evade or penetrate U.S. ballistic missile defenses. One of the new weapons mentioned by President Putin at the time was a large multiple warhead intercontinental ballistic missile called the Sarmat. The others include a long-range nuclear-powered cruise missile, a long-range nuclear-armed underwater drone, and an air delivery hypersonic cruise missile. Under Article 5 of the New START, parties can raise their concerns about new types of strategic offensive weapons under the Bilateral Consultative Commission. So, would these weapons be covered under the New START?
Thanks, Senator. Good to see you again. So 2 of the systems will. The Avangard and Sarmat would be considered as existing types. We have raised that with our Russian counterparts in discussions in the technical experts and our level. And the other 3 systems would be considered basically new kinds, and we will have that discussion. We've raised that as well, and we'll continue to raise it in our engagement with the Russian senator.
So along those lines, how would these new weapons be counted under New START in terms of multiple warheads, all of the different components of that?
It is early in the process with the 2 systems. If they continue on the glide path of their development, but the technical experts are sitting down and laying that out. The other 3, that will be part of the discussions. But the other takeaway I take as the Undersecretary overseeing this is New START as it stands, again, was relevant for its time and the systems that we have. Technology has evolved at such an incredible rate that many of our arms control treaties are no longer relevant. So it's incumbent upon us. You heard it from the President. You heard it yesterday with President Putin and Secretary Pompeo. We're going to have these discussions. We must have these discussions to ensure that we uphold our arms control responsibilities and adapt to make sure we have the safety and security for the American people. And it's a challenge I'm up to. Thanks, Senator.
Yeah, well, because the question is, how the inclusion of these weapons, how critical that would be in our decision on whether to extend New START.
Absolutely. The systems that they have now and the systems that they think they will have needs to be integrated, is being integrated with those interagency discussions. We rely on our DOD counterparts, on our DOE counterparts, the NSC and the intel agencies, and I can assure you that that schedule is rigorous and robust.
Okay, so maybe turning over to the Deputy Undersecretary Trachtenberg, in terms of President Putin declaring that these new additions to the Russia's strategic nuclear arsenal would render, I think he said, U.S. missile defenses, his words, useless. What is our government's assessment of the level of the maturity and accuracy of these weapons, if you can give this under these settings, and if we have to go to a secure setting, we can have that discussion separately?
I would prefer to address that in a closed session, Senator Barrasso. You do raise a very substantial and important point here in terms of the capabilities that the Russians say they are developing and the capabilities that they can develop, and whether, if, and how they would be accounted for under existing arms control agreements. So you're absolutely right, which is why I noted earlier that it is, we believe it is important in looking at how we approach arms control going forward, that we look at the totality of national security concerns and issues that are being raised by in particular by what Russia is doing, and factor that into our interagency discussions on what is the best course of action for the United States.
Yes, in a follow-up to this, and I know, Mr. Chairman, you may want to think about a closed session so we can get to these specific answers, because I want to know what the United States has in terms of a current or prospective missile defense system that could intercept these weapons, and you may be in the same situation of not wanting to discuss it in an open setting.
Yes, sir.
And if in terms of what specific actions we as a government can take or are taking to respond to and to counter these new strategic nuclear weapons that Vladimir Putin continues to brag about.
I agree with you, Senator, and that's why I think it is critically important that we roll those into the discussions that we are having within the interagency to figure out what is the best approach to guarantee our security and the security of our allies going forward in an arms control context.
Secretary Thompson, anything you'd like to add to that?
I fully support the efforts of what we're going through the interagency, and I agree it should be in a classified setting. I wouldn't want our adversaries to know what we have and what we don't have, Senator.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.